cars. Whether it's a city like New York, which tries to fit them into a place that existed before them, or a city like Houston, that just basically rebuilt itself for the automobile. Cars are everywhere in our cities. These days, urbanists hope to design spaces that are more centered around people, taking cities back from the machines that occupy their streets. But what if there was a city that simply did not have any cars? Not by design, but because their designers had no conception of what a car was. Welcome everyone to the Fes Medina. This right here is Morocco's largest car-free city. There's a newer part of Fes that's built around cars, but we won't be looking at that today. The Fes Medina has been around since the 8th century, and the oldest section, Fes al-Bali, has about 150,000 people in less than a square mile. That's the population of Charleston, South Carolina. So what's it like down there? Let's go check it out. We begin here at the famous Blue Gate. Now this is the edge of the car-centric territory of Fes. There's even like a drop-off loop for taxis and other vehicles. Once you go through the Blue Gate, it is purely pedestrians. So my original plan was to just wander aimlessly about the streets, get lost, and make some content, but then I took a look at the map. Long story short, this makes Boston look like a Cartesian coordinate plane. So I'm going to hire a guide and maybe actually have a bit more of an organized tour this time around. We begin at the Blue Gate, which was built in 1913. The outside is painted blue, the color of the city, while the inside is actually green, the color of Islam. From here, my guide quickly takes me into the narrow shopping streets of the city, filled with cafes and storefronts. We pass some shops selling dried meat, and others selling it a bit fresher. I stop and try a piece of Moroccan jerky, which is quite good. Other stalls sell olives of all sorts, which I've had with almost every meal here. Past these, we find Dar al-Magana, or the House of the Clock, which was built in the 14th century. It contains a mechanical clock that would drop a metal ball into a brass bowl every hour, using systems of water and weights. Across the street is the Madrasa Bu Anania, one of many Islamic centers of learning built in the same era. We didn't walk for more than 5 minutes without my guide seeing a friend or a neighbor he recognized, nor did we go that long without seeing cats. In the dense Medina, cats have long been allowed to roam the streets freely, as a cat problem is vastly preferable to a rodent problem. We passed our first of the Medina's 360 mosques, as well as someone's shop across the street selling plaques and grave markers. My guide teaches me to recognize the Arabic for Allah, which is shaped roughly like someone's hand. A little ways down the street we find a public water fountain with beautiful tiled decorations. After stopping to get some fresh squeezed orange juice, we wander down some incredibly narrow streets, where my guide shows me slotted windows where women used to look out on the world without being seen. This city's density is due, in part, to multiple families living in apartments and all sharing a kitchen. This is architecturally possible because families used to keep their livestock in the home, a fact reflected by the multiple sizes of door on these buildings. Most doors are also marked with the hand of Fatima, a sign of good luck and protection. We pass an Arabic preschool and wind through a few more streets. Then we duck under a bar set across the street to prevent animals from coming this way, and approach a mosque containing the tomb of Idris II, who ruled Morocco from 807 to 828 AD. Outside are stands selling nougat sweets. These are covered in bees for some reason, and the Moroccan subreddit tells me this is an indicator of a quality product. Next up is the University of Al-Korobian, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Al-Korobian.
A mosque and learning center founded in the city in 857 AD by Fatima al-Fihri, considered today to be the world's oldest continually operating center for higher learning. Stepping into the courtyard of a similar learning center, we find beautiful Islamic architecture and art, along with student quarters that are open to tourists. Next, we make our way to the Chihuahua Tannery, which is the largest of its kind in the city, and dates back almost a millennium, though nobody is entirely sure how old it is. On the left, hides are soaked in a mixture of cowpea, pigeon poop, and other delightful things, causing the whole operation, which also includes vats of dye, to smell rather bad. I suggested I don my N95 mask for this part of the tour, but a tannery worker instead handed me a sprig of mint to hold to my nose, claiming this would work better. I then got a tour of various leather products for sale, but despite their pleas otherwise, I didn't buy anything. From here we visited a spice shop, with all sorts of wonderful smelling things for sale. At the shopkeeper's urge, I tried some argan nuts, which I was told were anti-diabetic. These had about 5 different aftertastes, each worse than the last, and now, 3 months later, I still have type 1 diabetes. However, I did end up buying argan oil and amber, which is a sort of Moroccan dry deodorant. Next, I visited a hammam, a traditional Moroccan spa where I was rubbed down with oil and massaged, then given a bath on a stone table. After this I was hungry, so I stopped in this tiny hole-in-the-wall shop for what I believe was a lamb kofta sandwich, if the internet is to be believed. This was followed by the yummy thin rye yogurt and the thick, oily Bissara chickpea soup, typically eaten for breakfast. Stepping out of the Medina and back into the new city, we're once again surrounded by cars, buses, and taxis. I bid farewell to my guide and catch a taxi back up to the tombs. Looking down at the city, I gotta say that Fes has taught me a lot about good urbanism. In Fes, you can walk to your job, to your school, to wherever you need to buy things, and you're probably gonna see people you know in your community along the way. It's a person-centered city. And yes, important things have been invented since then, like the grid system, or wheelchair accessibility, or rapid transit. But fundamentally, I think we've lost the art of designing good, people-friendly cities. But in the Fes Medina, we can look at the past firsthand and get ideas for the future.
Big welcome, my brother. Big welcome. Marhaba, my brother. This is nice view. All the view of the city. Like the pictures. The old city is a new city.
Oh, one other thing. Despite being very, very populated, when night falls, the old city of Fes becomes intensely quiet. I'm not entirely certain of this, but I believe this is because of the city's ancient walls, surrounding it and providing a barrier between it and the crazier, gasoline-fueled world outside.